Let's see if this thing's going. We've got Facebook Live going here, and we've got a Zoom call to some students of mine down in California. Thanks for joining in. As you guys can see, it's a beautiful day here on Salt Spring Island. This is definitely entering into the time where I feel thankful to live up here and have weathered a long, tough winter. It feels like the winter is continuing, actually, with this whole coronavirus thing. But when we have days like this, it doesn't feel so bad. It feels like I'm thankful to have some space in my yard to be able to come out and chip, and I'm thankful to be able to connect with you guys. And today we're gonna do a little chipping. We're gonna keep this one pretty short, probably 20 to 25 minutes. And you know, this one would be considered chipping 101, and it's never. I've never come away from a day where I've worked on my chipping in this manner where I've been disappointed, like, oh, I didn't get as much out of that. I think always coming back to the fundamentals is so cool, because for me, what we're going to talk about today is if you're struggling with any type of your chipping, whether it's a flop shot, whether it's a pitch shot, whether it's a shot where you want to have it chip and run or run out or spin, if you can come back to just this really simple chip, all the other shots sort of open up to you. And we'll get into talking about, you know, the different parts of the golf club. You know, you've got the leading edge part of the golf club, you've got the bottom, you've got the sole of the club, the back edge is the relief grind, so this whole thing down here is called the bounce. And how that interacts with the turf is really important for being a good chipper, understanding where the bottom of your swing and how the club, you know, how much bounce there is on a club, you know, whether there's 8 degrees of bounce, 10 degrees, 12, 14, it all matters in your club choice and reading lies. And I don't know if we'll have time to get into that today, but I think over the next little while with some of these videos, I think we will be able to get into a lot of that stuff. And then of course, one thing that I did want to start mentioning is that if anybody did have the desire for some one-on-one coaching, I am offering one-on-one coaching, most likely through a Zoom call, and it would be something like this, where I'd be looking at you, you'd be looking at me, and I'm offering that at 40% off of my normal rate. So if you're sitting at home and you're bored and you have some questions, I mean, I love it when you comment on these feeds. I've definitely been trying to respond to all of them. Yeah, so I guess I'll just get right into it. And again, I'm just going to keep going with that thought of can we put ourselves in the spot of just noticing what's happening? So not trying to judge too much about whether a shot was good or bad, and just feeling it out and seeing, you know, can we notice what's going on? Wondering if you guys can see this ball. I have to get a little closer to see. Maybe tilt it down a little bit. That's probably about as good as we're going to do. So, I've got a little white bucket about 8 yards in front of me, and I've got a 54-degree Cleveland wedge. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is the role of hands when you chip. And a lot of people say, oh, he's got really good hands, you know, steady under pressure. I think having really good hands, like say somebody that I would say has really good hands would be like a guy like Phil Mickelson or Jordan Spieth. When they're forced to use their hands, they're really good with it. But in a lot of ways, the less that you use your hands when you chip, the better of a chipper you're going to be. Your hands, when you get nervous, are going to be harder to control than your body. You know, when you get nervous, all of the blood rushes to the middle of your body. And so if you're using the big muscles to perform, then when you're nervous, you're going to play better and perform better. And so I like to try to say, let's take the hands out of it. And then at some point with some specialty shots, you know, if we wanted to hit like a big, super high flop shot, that would require some pretty good hands. Being able to time, the spot that your hands are going to release. But really, before you start looking into doing shots like that, I mean, there's so many shots that you can hit, really high soft shots that you can hit without really using your hands. So first thing we're going to do, and normally I would do this off of a fairway lie, because now that we're getting into some rough, we have to start talking about reading lies. But I'm going to give myself some good lies here, because we'll get into, on another chipping video, some bad lies. But right now I just want to talk about good lie, which means what? What do you think the difference is between a good lie and a bad lie? I want to see who's watching here. See if any of the team members are... Oh, we got a lot of people watching here. This is great. Okay, so the difference to me between a good lie and a bad lie is whether you can see the back of the ball. I mean, I don't care if it's a bare lie, if it's hard pan, whether it's a perfect fairway. If you can see the back of the ball, then it's a good lie, because that means that the club can interact with the ball without having any grass in between. To me, a bad lie, even though, it might not be that difficult, would be something like that. I don't know if you can see that, but you can't see the back of the ball. So now you're going to have to use the bounce of the club. You're not going to be able to hit the ball first. You're going to have to hit the ground first and then let the club slide through. But we're going to get to that probably next time, reading lies. What I like to do in order to have the hands quiet in the golf swing, I'm actually going to flip this way. So I'm going to show you from the down the line view, and now I'm going to go at that bucket there. I like to try to be really close to the ball. I almost like to feel like my nose is right on top of the ball. You can imagine that the further I stand away from it, if I'm chipping, the more I'm going to have to use my hands to get out to it. I can't just use my body. I'm going to miss it. So I'm going to have to use more of my hands as I stand further away. As I get really, really close into it, it almost becomes like a putting stroke. You can see my hands are really, really quiet, and I can just use my shoulders to create all of the energy that I need. And so when you hit a shot and it doesn't go to your target, whether it's a little bit short or a little bit long, instead of saying, oh, that was a bad shot versus a good shot, just think about it in terms of energy. I know that if I hit a chip shot to this bucket 10 yards away, and I hit a chip that landed about 2 feet long, I could say, oh, it's 15 feet from the pin for my target, it wasn't a good shot. Another way to look at it would be it just had too much energy. And so start thinking about the amount of energy that you want to put into these shots, as opposed to thinking good shot, bad shot. If you leave one short, was it bad? Did you judge the lie correctly? Did you hit the shot that you wanted, or did you just not give it enough energy? Because that's really what it's all about. And then deciding how much energy to give it is only something that you can practice. I mean, that's not anything that I can tell you. Like if I was standing here and I said, there's a bucket 8 yards away, somebody tell me how hard to throw it. Like, not that hard, really hard. There's nothing you can do. You just have to look out there and you have to react. Oh, hit the bucket. Okay, so think of it in terms of energy. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but what I want you to do, just to try this out, is to take 3 club head lengths from the ball. So we'll call this 1 club head length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that there on the edge of the ball. I'm going to bring it back to there, and then I'm going to go to here. Now I'm going to get my feet right in on that. This might feel really, really close to some of you. I'm going to set my weight so that it's in front of the ball on the right-hand side of it. So if I'm a lefty, it's going to be on the right-hand side of the ball. If I'm a righty, it's going to be on the right-hand side. And I'm going to set it on the instep of my lead foot. So right here, I'm just going to set it there like I'm driving a nail right through the middle of my foot. But it's on the instep of the lead foot. And I'm just going to leave it there. Typically, if I make solid contact, it's because I left my weight there. And when I don't make solid contact, if I watch a video of myself, it's like, oh, my weight's moving all over the place. So I've got a pretty good lie here. I've got 3 club head lengths from the ball, so 1, 2, 3. I've got my weight on the instep of my front foot, and I actually feel like I'm looking right down on the ball. Now from here, if I want to make solid contact with the back of that ball, all I have to do is I just like we did in the putting drill, all I have to do is feel like I rock my shoulders. I'm not making a turn like this because we're so close to the ball. The plane of my shoulders is just going to basically go like this. It's going to go down and then up. And so I'll show you from this angle. If I set a club over my shoulders, it's going to go down and up. If you watch where this club is pointing, it's pointing on my target line. If I were to turn, do you see how now the club's pointed way out in front of me? Where if my target line is here, I'll just put down a shaft. I don't know if you guys can see that. That would be right on my target line, or at least somewhat close to it. So if I'm here and I'm just rocking my shoulders vertically, I can see that this club is pointing on that line, and then as I come through, it's still pointing on that line. If I'm turning, then it's pointed way out here. So for the sake of this chip, and there will be chips where you turn your shoulders, you know, maybe a big flop shot, and then you have to use your hands. But for this one, let's just think, just rock the shoulders, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, get the weight on the instep of my front foot, and I'm just going to rock my shoulders. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but it came out really, really crispy, which means that I could tell that I hit the ball before I hit the ground. And so when you have a good lie, I really want to get into this. This is such a good time to understand this as opposed to like right in the middle of the season. But when you have a good lie, there's going to be one of two parts of the club is going to hit the ground first. You've got the leading edge or you've got the sole of the club. And so when you have a good lie, the first thing to hit the ground is going to be the leading edge. So that means that because your weight's forward, you're going to have that club shaft leaning a little bit forward. And as it comes down, the first thing to tick the turf is going to be that leading edge. Now you can imagine if the ball's sitting up right there on the fairway, you're going to hit it dead solid. And then if the ball's sitting down a little bit, you're going to want to use the bounce. But today, all we're doing is we're just doing clean lies. We're going to keep it really simple. I know a lot of you probably have access to a club and a couple of balls, and this reminds me of a story of me and my brother when we were growing up. We had our living room and our dining room had a separation of about 3 feet of wood between them, and we used to chip balls from the dining room to the living room and see how much we could spin the ball where we could carry it over the wood and have it not go too far once it hit the carpet in the living room. And it was really, really fun to hit some little spinners and have them pop straight up. We definitely like almost broke windows and, you know, hurt people, but it was a lot of fun. And I would say still to this day that I'm so good at those little short shots. Like if I have a shot where I have to hit it 3 feet in front of me and nip it because of that little shot that we worked on for hours and hours. So even if you don't have a backyard with grass, you know, get yourself in a living room. I mean, you could hit a shot as short as 3 feet in front of you. I'll just do a short one here. 1, 2, 3. Weight on the front foot, nose right on top of the ball, and I'm just going to leave my weight on the instep of my front foot, and then from here, rock my shoulders. Again, you can just hear in the sound that I'm hitting ball first. And if you're truly rocking your shoulders on the plane of the shaft, the ball's going to come out so soft. I mean, I felt like I made a pretty big swing there, and that ball only carried about 3 feet. So again, try to do that. See if you can put the club on your shoulders, and then as you take the club back, is the club pointing on that line, or for most of you, I bet you it's going way above it. With this shot, because of how close, if we stood further away, then your shoulder plane's going to get flatter. But as we're right on top of it, it really can just rock this way. I'm going to do one more. Even on that one, I would say did a pretty good job on the way down, and then on the way up, you can see that club is now pointed outside of that line. So I think I could have rocked my shoulders even more that way, and that would just force the ball to even come out softer. See, that one compared to the one before, I don't know if you guys can hear it on the volume, but it was even more crispy because of the way that on the follow-through, my shoulders went down this way and then that way. So instead of like, I notice a lot of people, they want to do that, and it's really, really hard. That's how you take spin off the ball. So if you're looking to add spin to the ball, I'm sure a lot of you want to do a spin clinic here. Does anybody have any questions here? I want to see who's participating. Okay. I'm not seeing any questions come through, so I'm assuming that you guys are all like, you've got this down. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple this way, just so you can see this action of where my weight is going to be. So again, I'm going to go 3 club head lengths from the ball. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to get right on top of the ball. I'm feeling like I'm looking right down at it. My weight is on the instep of my front foot. I know I'm believe it or not, I'm still left-handed. It's just a camera thing, and I don't want to flip it around because I like being able to see myself. Now weight forward, and then I'm just going to do a rehearsal. Can I keep this? Can I keep my shoulder plane on my target line? The more that I feel like I keep my shoulder plane on the target line, the softer the ball comes out. So I'm just going to do a couple more of those where I really want you guys to get that. If you guys can put some kind of a shaft on your target line, and then as you rock your shoulders, just watch where does the shaft follow that line? I guarantee you it's going to want to go out. If you can get this shot down, this shot alone, then there's about 100 other shots that are opened up to you. Because right now you're probably thinking, yeah, this is coming out really nicely, but if I want to hit it higher, you know, how do I hit it higher? I'm just anticipating these questions. There's 3 ways that you can hit it higher. The first way would be move the ball forward in your stance. So again, you still want to have your weight in front of the ball. So I'm going to move it forward in my stance. I'm going to get my weight still on my front foot. And now I'm just going to do the exact same thing. Rock my shoulders. That went about twice as high just by moving it from, I'd say, the back of my stance. Try not to play anything too much in the middle because sometimes I get caught in between where my weight's at. So I've got back of my stance. Now I've got this one off my front foot. So it's maybe going twice as high just by changing the ball position. So that's one way you can do it, ball position. I would say mess around with that. If you guys want to write some of this down, I'm going to post this video. I actually posted a workout video in a private group that I'm creating. I think eventually I'd like to get you guys all into a private group just so I know who's going to be there and take more and more requests for exactly what you're looking for. But right now I'm really enjoying what's happening now. The schedule that we're doing is I'm sort of doing 1 short game video, 1 full swing video, and mainly the thing that we're doing with that is the 1 arm drill. I know a lot of you can't swing the club full, and so we're doing the 1 arm drill. If you haven't heard about that, you know, tune in. I think the next video that we do will be a 1 arm drill video, and then I'm also doing a workout video. I think I posted one on Friday. So I'm kind of rotating between those 3 things, and I'm getting a lot of positive feedback, but I also want your negative feedback. I want to hear what you want more of, what you want less of, because this is all about you, and this is your golf game. I'm just enjoying standing here in the warm sun. So again, I'm going 3 club head lengths, 1, 2, 3. I've got my weight on my front foot. I'm going up in the front of my stance. My hands are still ahead of the ball. I've still got some forward shaft lean. And that's going about twice as high as if it was in the back of my stance. So that's number 1, adding loft. Again, if you're struggling with any of these shots, always go back to chipping 101. It could even start with a 3-foot chip. Back of the stance, weight forward, nose on top of the ball, 3 club head lengths from the ball, and then just watch that shoulder plane. Is it going down and back on the target line? If it is, you're going to hit it solid almost every time, if you can see the back of the ball. So pop quiz, what's the difference between a good lie and a bad lie? What did I say earlier? If anybody was paying attention, I'll give you guys, I'll hit a couple more shots and then I'll see if anybody remembered. Again, these are things that I'm going to say so often if you tune into these videos that you actually don't have to remember them. I don't want to say anything that you have to remember. I'm going to say them over and over and over, and then they just become a part of you. Number 2, for adding loft to the chip shot. So we've got front of the stance. Now, hand position. So we can go hand position forward, an inch ahead of the middle of our body. We can go hand position neutral, going right at the middle of our body, and we could even move it back, which may seem scary to some of you, but as long as you keep your shoulders moving, we've just added loft, and everything's still the same. So we're going to go hands forward, we're going to go to neutral, weight still on the front foot, and now I'm going to rock my shoulders. That one went about 30% higher than the last one. Now we'll go same stance, 1, 2, 3, weight on the front foot, hands back now, an inch behind the middle of my body. It's really, really imperative that you keep rocking the shoulders here because it's so easy to flip and start using the hand when you have the hands back. Oh, I almost made that one. So that one again went a foot higher than the last one, and we haven't changed. You know, we talked about like at the beginning of like the huge flop shot, and it's like that's changing a lot and using a lot of hands, and that requires a lot of timing. And I would say if you need to use that shot, use it. I mean, there's some scenarios where you have to get up and down, you have no green to work with, and you have to go for it. But you also have to understand when you start using your hands how much the percentages of the shot go down. So there's so many ways you can add loft and spin to the club without using your hands, and so far we're doing it. So okay, did anybody write down the difference between a good lie and a bad lie? Ezra? I'm sure Ezra knows. He's probably pretty coffeeed out. I saw my nephew eating coffee this morning, which was probably the start of a good day for my brother and his wife. I'd like to know front, back foot weight distribution. Okay, nobody wrote that down. That's cool. So one of the questions that we had was front to back foot weight distribution. So this probably won't be the answer that you want to hear, but just much like the one-arm drill, you kind of have to figure it out for yourself. I mean, I would say as long as what you're trying to do is the club bottoms out in your swing wherever the center of your weight is. So if the center of my weight's here, right in the middle of my body, the club's bottoming out here. If I lean forward and now the center of my weight's here, you can see that the club is bottoming out there. It's not going to bottom out here. So all we're looking at is the low point. So if my weight's back and I swing, now I'm moving the low point there. And so one of the things solid contact wise for full swing and especially chipping is that you have to have the center of your weight ahead of the ball. And so in order to do that, I don't know, I would say the more forward, if you have 90% of your weight forward, that the ball's going to go a lot lower than if you maybe have, because you can't really have 90% of your weight forward without leaning. So if you come here, now it feels like 55, 45, and it goes a little higher. So to me, it's like, if you want to hit these little low runner shots where it's in the back of your stance and you've got all of your weight forward, I mean, that thing's going to go and run for days. And that's a great shot, especially if you don't want it to grab. But it's pretty tough to hit a shot with all of your weight forward and hit it high. See, the only reason why I got that high is that I had the hands help. So I would say it's just about making sure that the weight is in front of the ball, and however much of it has to do with how high you want to hit it. More forward, lower, further back, higher. And it's something that you can experiment. But the main thing is you can see like the center of my weight now here with the weight locked into my front foot is totally ahead of the ball. And it's really easy to make solid contact. It becomes like walking at that point. Like you get yourself set up in the right position. I'm watching you. It's like no matter what, they're going to make solid contact. So I hope that helps. Last but not least, adding loft to the club. So first we did ball position, further back, lower, further forward, higher. We did hand position, where hands were leaning forward an inch to the head of the middle of our body. That's one height, and then moving it back to the middle of our body, another height, and then even higher going back. And then the last thing would be to do is to open and control the loft of the club. And so if I wanted to hit one really high, I would just go front of my stance. I'm still going to get 3 club heads from the ball. As you start opening up the club, you might have to back up just ever so slightly. Weight still locked in the front foot. Hands, I'm going to say back, and now I'm going to open the club head a little bit. And from here, I'm still trying to do the exact same thing of keeping my shoulders on plane. See, that one went about twice as high as the last shot. And again, you're going to be able to control the distance so good. If you're having trouble controlling the distance, I almost guarantee you that it's because your shoulders are rocking this way and not that way. So we've got weight forward, ball position forward, hands back, open club face. Those are some of the best chips that I've hit in a while. Does anybody have any questions here? I was, how many people we got tuning in? I was asked by one of the, how long have we been going here? I was asked by one of the other pros in the area to tell a story about Augusta National. I think on my next session I might post something about it to see if that's gonna get extra people to tune in. But one thing I have got a really cool story about the bunkers on the back of 12 and getting out to test them the week of the Masters. I think I'll stop there, but tune in for the next one-arm drill. I believe it will be Thursday. Nope, Wednesday. And I'm hoping that you guys will tune in that day. So back to my story about the Masters. I don't know if anybody heard, but it sounds like they're hosting the Masters in April. That will be really interesting to see what the course looks like in April, because there's definitely a reason why they host that tournament in April. November, I would say, is not the ideal time for color out there. It'll be interesting to see what the blooms look like, and if the grass looks any good. I mean, I know it's really, really hot all summer there, so they overseed in September, and usually the grass is pretty thin. But I'm guessing they're going to probably alter it, and if anybody can pull that off, I would say it would be Augusta. So that's pretty rad, and I'm hoping, geez, crossing my fingers that everything kind of gets back to normal by then. So anyway, just to review, so we looked at, basically we did chipping 101, and we looked at a few things. We talked about the difference between a good lie and a bad lie, whether you can see the back of the ball or not. We talked about 3 club head lengths from the ball, having the nose on top of the ball, and then weight on the instep of your front foot. And then we talked about 3 ways that if you wanted to, you could add loft by putting the ball forward in your stance, 1, leaning the hands back, 2, and then opening the club face, 3. But everything hinges on having the shoulders rock down and up on the exact line that you're chipping. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to leave your comments, or if you have my email address, shoot me an email. And I'm taking requests for what you want to see. So again, I'm coming up with these ideas because I know that they've made the biggest difference for me. But if you have some questions about what you'd like to see, I'd love to hear from you. All right, peace out, everyone.